If I were an Indian, I often think that I would greatly prefer to cast my lot amongst the people, those who adhere to the free open plains rather than submit to the confines of a reservation, there to be the recipient of those blessed benefits of civilization thrown in without stint or measure. I saw the American Indian as a free roaming, free soul that had no property boundaries, had no constraints. His ideal of hunting and following game on the prairie was much like the freedom that I found in the West. And it was that allure that brought me back here, even with the deprivations of not being able to provide for my wife those benefits that civilizations offered. And all manner of celebrities have come out here, and I've led them on hunting expeditions. The Grand Duke Alexis, third son of Tsar Nicholas Alexander II, hunted with me out here in Kansas and in Nebraska on Red Willow Creek. Right after the purchase of Alaska by Russia in '69, which they called Seward's Folly, they sent the Grand Duke here to the frontier because he wanted to see the West. He wanted to hunt buffalo before they became extinct. And it's happened that I was offered by General Sheridan to be co-host of the hunt with a little known scout by the name of William F. Cody. You probably know him as Crawfish Bob. Anyways, we had an excellent hunt, and we're able to provide the Grand Duke with 8 kills during that hunt. He brought the heads back to Russia, and an ideal of a culture that was here on the Western Plains that he thought was tantamount to the Cossacks. In fact, he called the Indians the Cossacks of the prairie. That was a diplomatic coup for our nations to be united in that one moment in time. We had sent emissaries to Russia. Russia sent people here to the United States, and the two world powers were at peace with one another for a time because of maybe the diplomatic inroads that we were able to achieve during the hunt. By the time the hunt took place, the herds had diminished. They had dropped out of parts of Kansas, had gone north. Before the coming of the white man to this continent, there's been estimates that there were 600 million bison covering this entire continent. By the 1860s, there were about 60 million bison here on the frontier. When the railroads came out, sportsmen came from all over the world. I even hosted Lord Water Park and Paget here at Big Creek. We went out on a hunting excursion, and by then the herds were starting to dwindle. By 1890, some historians believe that there were only 800 buffalo in all of the North American continent. So when Crayfish Bob is up here telling you about how many buffalo he shot in a day, you can understand that most people didn't realize that there would become an end to the great herds of bison. And the diminishing of the herds brought about the downsizing of the Indian tribes, because everything that they lived upon and utilized from the bison affected their way of life. They were a nomadic people who traveled from place to place following the herds. Their houses were made from the hides, the buffalo meat sustained them, and all parts of the animal were utilized by the American Indians. Once that was taken away from them, they had to adapt to a different way of life. I always had promoted not the reservation system, which put the Indians in a confined area, but rather the assimilation of the Indians into our society. Many of my friends were Indians, and I advocated for them in Washington when I would be brought to Washington to report about the successes here on the frontier.